a program that could potentially help cover a large portion of your down payment with 0% interest. The program provides down payment and closing cost assistance in the form of a loan with 0% interest. You typically don't make monthly payments on that assistance loan. Instead, it's usually repaid later when you sell the home or refinance the property. You ever hear about a homeownership program and think, that sounds too good to be true? A program that could potentially help cover a large portion of your down payment with 0% interest. Well, here in Washington State, that program actually exists. It's called the Covenant Homeownership Program. And if you're thinking about buying a home in Washington, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, this is something you need to understand. Because for some families, this program can be the difference between waiting years to buy a home or buying sooner than ever expected. Welcome back. If you haven't met yet, I'm here to help people navigate real estate here in Washington State. Whether that's buying your first home, downsizing into something that fits your next chapter, or figuring out the smartest move for your family. And today, I want to walk you through exactly what the Covenant Homeownership Program is all about, and who it's designed for, and how it could potentially help you or someone you care about get into a home. Because this program is getting a lot of attention, and a lot of people still don't fully understand how it works. So first, let's start with the big picture. The Covenant Homeownership Program was created by Washington State to address a very specific historical issue. For decades, racially restrictive housing covenants prevented many families from buying homes in certain neighborhoods. These policies had long-term impacts on who was able to build wealth through home ownership. The Covenant program was designed as a way to help some of the families who were affected by that history access home ownership today. And the way it does that is through down payment assistance. Here's how it works. The program provides down payment and closing cost assistance in the form of a loan with 0% interest. That loan sits behind your primary mortgage, meaning it acts as a secondary loan, not your main mortgage. Here's the part that surprises a lot of people. You typically don't make monthly payments on that assistance loan. Instead, it's usually repaid later when you sell the home or refinance the property. Now, depending on the household income at the time of purchase, there's also the possibility that some of that assistance could be forgiven after 5 years. Again, this only applies to the assisted portion of the loan, not the primary mortgage. But for qualifying buyers, that can be a very powerful boost towards getting into a home. Now, let's talk about who this program is actually for, because this is where the eligibility rules become really important. To qualify for the Covenant Home Ownership Program, several things generally needs to be true. First, you need to be considered a first-time home buyer. That usually means you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years. Second, your household income must fall within certain limits, typically up to 120% of the area median income for the county where you're buying. In places like King County or Pierce County, that income threshold can actually be fairly high, meaning many working families may still fall within those limits. But there's another key requirement. The program is specifically designed for households whose family history in Washington dates back before 1968 and who belongs to groups that was historically affected by discriminatory housing practices in the state. In many cases, that means the buyer or a parent, grandparent, or great-grandparent must have lived in Washington on before that time period. And documentation is typically required to verify that history. Now, I know that might sound like a lot of conditions, but if you meet those requirements, the program can potentially provide significant financial help towards buying a home. And that's exactly why it's getting attention across the state. So this video is meant to give you an overview, not financial or legal advice. For specific guidance, you should always speak with a licensed lender or housing professional who can evaluate your situation. But if you're even curious about whether this program might apply to you, it's worth having the conversation because the opportunity to reduce the upfront cost of buying a home can make a massive difference. If the Covenant Homeownership program caught your attention in this video, wait until you see how the process actually works in the next video.